Plotinus, Ennead 1, Tractate 3, on Dialectic. So what craft or procedure or practice will lead us up to that place where we must journey? Where then we must arrive, that is, at the good or the first principle, we can take it as agreed and shown by means of many arguments. Moreover, the means by which this was shown was a kind of ascent. What must the person be like who is to ascend? Must he not be, at least as Plato says, one who has seen all or most beings, who in his first birth as a human child will be a philosopher, a musician, or a lover? The philosopher certainly ascends by his nature, while the musician and the lover must be led. What then is the manner of this ascent? Is it then one which is identical for all of these, or is there a certain one for each? The journey is really twofold for everyone, whether they are ascending or already arrived. For the first journey starts at things here below, whereas the second is for those who have already arrived in the intelligible world and have in a way made tracks there, but who must necessarily travel until they arrive at the furthest place, which is indeed the end of the journey, when someone would be at the pinnacle of the intelligible world. But let that wait. We should try to speak first about the ascent. First, one must actually distinguish among these men, beginning by speaking about the nature of the musician. We should certainly posit him as someone easily moved and transported in the direction of that which is beautiful, but less able to be moved by beauty itself. He is, though, ready to respond to what are in a way impressions of beauty that he encounters. And just as the fearful are towards noises, so is he primed for sounds, that is, for the beauty in these, always fleeing the inharmonious and the absence of unity in melodies and in rhythms, and pursuing good rhythm and musical form. So after hearing these sensible sounds and rhythms and patterns, he should ascend in the following way. Setting aside the matter from the proportions and expressed principles in the beauty which is present, he should ascend or be instructed that the things to which he is transported are the intelligible harmony, and the beauty which is in it, and generally beauty, not the beauty of some one thing alone. And he should have instilled in him philosophical arguments from which he should ascend to confidence that he possesses that of which he is ignorant. What these arguments are is for later. The lover, into whom the musician would be transformed, and having been transformed either remains as such or continues on his journey, has some sort of memory of beauty. Since beauty is separate, he is unable to grasp it, though he is amazed by visible beauties and he is transported to them. He should be instructed then not to fall for one body and be transported by it, but he should be led on to all bodies by an argument showing that it is the identical beauty in all bodies, and that this beauty is different from the bodies, and that it should be said to come from elsewhere, and that there is more of it in other things, showing him, for example, beautiful practices and beautiful customs. For this is habituating him to find his beloved among incorporeals, and that beauty is in the crafts and in types of scientific understanding and in the virtues. Next, these beauties should be reduced to one, and he should be taught how beauty comes to be in all these things, and from virtues he should then ascend to intellect, to being, and there, in the intelligible world, he should be made to journey upward. The philosopher is he who is ready by nature and who is in a way winged, and is not in need of separation like these others. He has moved himself in the upward direction, and is only at a loss for someone to show him the way. He should be shown, then, and liberated since he is willing, having been by nature released for a long time. The mathematical studies should actually be given to him that will habituate him to having a grasp of and confidence in the incorporeal, for he will receive this easily given that he is a lover of learning. And as he is by nature virtuous, he should be led to the perfection of virtues. And after the mathematical studies, dialectical arguments should be given to him, and he should be made into a complete dialectician. What is this dialectic that should also be given to those previously mentioned? It is actually the capacity to say what each thing is, and in what way it differs from other things, and what it has in common with them, and in what and where each of these is, and if it is, what it is, and how many beings there are, and again, how many non-beings there are, different from beings. Dialectic converses about what is good and not good, and such things as are classified under the good, and such things as are classified under the opposite, and clearly about what is everlasting and what is not so. It does this by means of scientific understanding about everything, not belief. It ceases to wander in the sensible world and is ensconced in the intelligible world, and there it has its business, letting go of falsehood and nourishing the soul in Plato's plane of truth, using his method of division for discerning the forms, and indeed using it to get at what each thing is, and using it also for the primary genera, and for those things that are woven from these by the use of intellect, until it has gone through all of that which is intelligible, and picking up the analysis again, it arrives back at the starting point. Then it remains still, in stillness to the extent that it is in the intelligible world, no longer busying itself with many things, but having become one with its objects, it just looks. It gives over the so-called logical technique regarding premises and syllogisms to another craft, just as it would leave knowing how to write. It thinks some crafts are necessary and come before this one, but it judges these as it does other things, and it thinks some of them to be useful but others superfluous and belonging to a procedure which cares to occupy itself with these matters. But where does this scientific understanding get its principles from? In fact, intellect gives clear principles if one had the ability to grasp them with the soul. Next, the soul puts together and relates and distinguishes the things that follow until it arrives at the perfect activity of intellect. For Plato says, dialectic is the purest part of the activity of intellect and wisdom. Of necessity, then, since it is the most honorable of those of our intellectual habits which have to do with being, which is the most honorable object, wisdom is concerned with being, and the intellect is concerned with that which transcends being. What then? Is not philosophy the most honorable, or is philosophy identical with dialectic? It is the more honorable part of philosophy, for indeed dialectic should not be thought to be a tool of philosophy. For it is not concerned with bare theorems and rules, but it is concerned with real things and, in a way, has beings as its material. It approaches them methodically, having real things in view at the same time as it has the theorems. It recognizes accidentally falsehood and sophistry when someone else produces them, judging that which is false as alien to the truths in itself, and when someone adduces a falsity, it recognizes it as something contrary to the rule of truth. It does not then know a proposition, for it is just letters, but in knowing that which is true, it knows what they call a proposition, and knows in general the motions of the soul, what it affirms and what it denies, and if it affirms the very thing it denies or something else, and if things are different or identical, and it directs itself in a way analogous to the way in which sense perception operates, though it gives over to another discipline the minute examination of the details it cares about. It is, then, the more honorable part of philosophy, for philosophy has other parts. It theorizes about nature too, getting assistance from dialectic, just as the other crafts use arithmetic, though the philosophy of nature is provided with more from dialectic since it is nearer. And in the same way, moral philosophy theorizes with principles from the intelligible world, adding the habits and exercises from which the habits arise. The intellectual habits have dialectical principles as if these were their own properties from the start. These principles, however, come from the intelligible world, even though the majority of the habits have a material basis. And while the other virtues involve calculative reasoning concerning particular states and actions, practical wisdom is a kind of metacalculative reasoning, concerned more with the universal and whether things are mutually implied, and if one should hold back from acting either now or later, or whether something wholly different would be better. Dialectic and theoretical wisdom, moreover, provide all universal and immaterial considerations that are for use by practical wisdom. Is it possible for the lower virtues to be present without dialectic and theoretical wisdom? Yes, but imperfectly and deficiently. Is it possible for someone to be wise and a dialectician without these virtues? In fact, this would not happen, but they must have been there previously or they must grow up simultaneously. And perhaps someone could have natural virtues, from which the present ones arise when theoretical wisdom arises. Theoretical wisdom comes then after the natural virtues. Next, the virtues of character become perfect. Or is it the case that both of them grow and are perfected at the same time when the natural virtues are present? In fact, as one advances, it perfects the other. For generally, natural virtue is imperfect both in vision and in character, and the principles from which we have natural virtue and wisdom are the most important thing for both.